Hey, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Brescher here. Today, we're going to be looking at solving two-step equations. It's my goal that we will all learn how to use two-step equations to solve real-world problems. And you can see we're focusing on a 7th grade Algebra and Function Standard 2. Well, let's go ahead and take a look. First of all, we have a model here to represent an equation. And if we look at what's on the left side of this model and compare it with what's on the right side, we know that the center point would actually be like an equal sign since it's balanced. Now, if it weren't balanced, we might have a greater than or less than sign, which would be called an inequality. For now, we're just focused on equations. So, when we look at this first one, since we have three perfect, exactly the same size apples with golden stems and green leaves on them on the left with two number ones, we could write 3x or 3a for apples plus 2. And on this other side, if we count the number ones, we have 8, 9, 10, 11. So 3a plus 2 equals 11, or you could just say 3x plus 2 equals 11. Now, when we go about solving this, our goal is to figure out what one apple weighs. So we want one apple on the scale. The first thing I'm going to need to do is try to get rid of some of these other things, like these two little weights. So I'm just going to pull them off the scale. Now, if you know anything about a scale, at this point, that means that this side over here is going to be heavier, and the scale will actually be weighted down over here. So I need to remove the same amount from this side. What we are doing mathematically is we are subtracting 2 from each side. And the reason we do this is to combine like terms. These are like terms. We can easily take 2 off this side and 2 off this side. And we're illustrating our subtraction property of equality. Once you've got that task completed, then you can rewrite the equation. And now we have 3x, you can see the 3 apples, equals 9. And that was 11 minus 2. This plus 0, thanks to the identity property of addition, can be dropped out, because when we add 0 to something, it doesn't change its value according to the identity property of addition. We're left with 3x equals 9. In order to figure out what each individual part is equal to, we have to take these 3 apples and divide them into 3 equal groups. Now we've separated them a little bit, and you'll notice that we've separated these ones over here, so they're in 3 equal groups. So now, if one apple goes with this group, I can pull an apple off, and I can pull 3 of these off, because I divided them into 3 equal groups. And I can do the same thing here. I pull 3 of these off, and the other apple, and the scale will remain balanced, which leaves me with one apple equaling 3 units. And what we're doing there is we're just dividing both groups by 3. Notice I didn't just divide one side by 3, I divided both of them by 3. The division property of equality allows me to do this. And when I simplify, I get x equals 3. Let's take a look at a real-world example now. Ian hit 5 more than twice as many home runs as Aiden. If Ian hit 19 home runs, how many home runs did Aiden hit? Write an algebraic equation for this situation and solve. So first we have to look at the vocabulary and determine what it tells us to do. Some of the key words we notice are 5 more than twice as many. And we also notice that it says Ian hit 19 home runs. Now, Ian hit 5 more than twice as many. So this tells us if these are both describing how Ian hit, okay, then we would put both of these on separate sides of the equal sign. This is how many Ian hit, 19. And then it says Ian hit 5 more than twice as many home runs as Aiden. Well, when we hear that word twice as many, that suggests multiplication by 2. So we can say 2 times Aiden, and it says 5 more than this. So we actually have to add 5 to 2a equals 19. Once you've got your algebraic equation set up, then all you have to do is combine like terms and use inverse operations to solve. I'm going to erase this for right now, and we will focus on solving for this equation. 2a plus 5 equals 19. To combine like terms, again, the a is its own term, 2 times a. Because we can't simplify it more than what we've already got it until we find out the value of a. But we can combine the 5 and the 19. And what we would do is use our equality properties and inverse operations to solve this. Subtract 5 from both sides, which will reverse or undo the addition of 5. And that leaves us with 2a plus 0 equals 14. And thanks to my identity property of addition, 2a is equal to 14. Now I simply divide both sides by 2, which is the inverse of multiplication. And my division property of equality allows me to do this and find the answer that Aiden hit 7 home runs. Now we got some practice problems. Go ahead, pause the screen, do the practice problems, and see how you did. Okay, let's go over the answers. For the first one, you should have subtracted 8 from both sides and then divided both sides by 4 to get x equals 7. On the second one, you should have added the inverse of subtraction is addition of 17 to both sides, and then divided both sides by 12 to get x equals 5. On this next one, add 8 to both sides and divide by 9 to get x equals 8. And on the last one, subtract 21 from both sides and then divide that value by 8 to get x equals 8. Here are some more challenging practice problems for those of you that want to be challenged. Pause the screen, try to solve them, and then we'll go over the steps needed to solve these problems. Okay, let's see how you did. On the first one, we have to do the inverse of adding negative 8. So instead, we're going to add the opposite of this. The opposite of negative 8 is positive 8. And there we just talked about the opposite of a negative value, which is also another standard in 6th grade. When you find the sum here, we get negative 4x plus 0 equals 44. And then we divide both sides by a negative 4 to get our answer, x equals negative 11. Remember, when a positive is divided by a negative value, the answer is negative, or the quotient is negative. On our next one, here we might have to go back to our technique of keep, change, opposite. Remember, when you have subtraction with integers, it's easier for most of us to kind of figure out what's going on in our minds by doing keep of the first term, change the subtraction sign to addition, and make this number its opposite. So the opposite of negative 19 is positive 19. Now, if we're doing the inverse of negative 7x plus 19, we're going to subtract 19 from both sides. Now, once again, if you're subtracting, this is the same as adding a negative 19. When both signs are the same, we simply add, but the answer will be a negative value. And now we move on to our next step, and we're going to divide by negative 7 to isolate the variable. And a negative divided by a negative equals a positive. x equals 9. Well, I hope this helped you out with understanding how to solve two-step equations. See ya!